Alright, so let me give a pretty brief overview. I do want you to know I did learn you how to do the boogie steps and everything, but so we keep everybody in the room, I will not display that today. So yes, I'm Andy Littman, and I have cystic fibrosis. I was there I think last year actually, as the moderator at the VLC, so I really enjoyed getting to meet a lot of you. It was a great time. But now I'm chair of the National Fundraising Committee, and my goal is to get with all these great volunteers that we have and to figure out ways to raise even more money so that we can eventually find a cure. So I am from Georgia, as Peter mentioned. I'm from Atlanta. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my event, but not yet. First, we're going to talk about our event, so I'm going to kind of give you an overview of this conference for our little session here. So today we have, I guess we're going to have about an hour to do all this, and I'm going to share a little bit about our committee, who's a part of it, and how we work to promote corporate engagement and the best practices for the foundation to have for the chapters around the country. Today our fellow volunteers will be sharing. We've got several case studies that we'll be going over and kind of tips and tricks to engage corporate support and the local community and how to raise more money at these special events that we do. One thing I know, 1 hour together is probably not enough, but it's time I think that we start this conversation. It's been long overdue, and we will facilitate ongoing national calls throughout the calendar year. So this isn't, this hour doesn't end everything. It's just the beginning, in our opinion. And then, we'll just go through all the best ideas and figure out how we're going to move forward in corporate engagement, and we're going to learn from each other. So don't be too discouraged. If you have some ideas, we don't get them all out there, leave us a name. And any questions you may have, and reach out to the presenters that are actually there. I'm virtually here today, so you probably can't reach out first to me. But I think you're going to get a takeaway packet today, and we'll give you all the contact information for the presenters, and that will provide you an opportunity to tell us about topics. So let's go ahead, and if you're looking at a slide, it kind of shows you all the people that are part of this. I'm going to name everybody real quick, and if you're in the room, if you could please stand up and be recognized. Randy Ball from the Heart of America. Nate Martin, Western Pennsylvania. Marianne Martin, Western Pennsylvania. No relation, just kidding. Keith Majors from New Jersey. Joel Neerman from Illinois. And Howard Tribble from Nevada. And I'm going to mention some other stuff, but it's very necessary for me to mention Dana Wilson and Peter Knoxted, who have done a great job with all this. You can give them a hand as well. So, I mentioned that I'm the chair of this event now. And I'm looking forward to it. I think this is a great opportunity that we have to make a difference. But just to tell you, many of the committee members here today that we have recognized have worked very hard into this. So we're really excited to hear what they have to say. And let me tell you kind of what our philosophy is. You see the slide there, whether it's corporate engagement is a year-round philosophy that works to connect corporations to the CF Foundation and provides companies and their employees with opportunities to collaborate, outreach, and awareness while furthering the mission of the CFF. Basically, our goal is to get the corporations to really engage with the CF Foundation and to figure out what that takes, and that's kind of what that slide is all about. So we'll go ahead and move on. I guess that's more self-explanatory. This slide I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit. Before we get to the case studies, here's kind of the rough summary of what all this means. Peter shared this with me, and I was pleasantly surprised to see how much support the CFF receives in this area. So if you see the number of 24 million, the total of which that's 19 million is generated just at the community level. So that's corporate teams, sponsorships, matching gifts, etc. And then you have another $5 million that equals out to $24 million, which is the national sponsorship and teams. Peter, if you want to discuss that for a minute here, just to kind of, give some missed on something there.
Actually, I think you did a good job, Andy. I would say that this is rough because we're always improving our systems to track what is a corporate team and what is sponsorship. But I think Andy said it. The real message here is how well we do already and what we want to build upon, through that outer circle of corporate support. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Thanks, Andy.
So, sure, no problem. Why don't we go ahead and move on to the video, if that's all right, and set an example of one that we created.
I so enjoy working with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation because I know every day that every little step forward in our partnership together is making a true difference in someone's life. From a corporate standpoint, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation absolutely matches our core objective, which is to be a strong member of the communities in which we both live and work. This charity is really great to work with because they're innovative, the research they're working on is absolutely groundbreaking. They have a spirit of teamwork that really envelops everyone that they work with. You instantly become part of this team.
Curing cystic fibrosis is very expensive. So raising funds for cystic fibrosis is probably their most critical thing that we can get involved in and help support.
Participating with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is rewarding in so many ways. We know that as a result of our efforts and the efforts of the foundation, we've seen the life expectancy of cystic fibrosis patients in the last few years nearly double.
This population of people affected by the disease is so small that they need the help. Just friends and family on their own couldn't raise the money to get the job done. It's an opportunity for everybody in your company to see everybody on a real equal playing field, equal footing, out there having a great time.
This is a true community. And for those of you that work in teams and have a spirit of teamwork, this couldn't be a better organization for you to get involved with, because they do have this spirit of one united team.
The staff and the volunteers have come into our firm and educated us on new therapies, new treatments, and the progress that's been made.
They provide comprehensive kits, tips, and templates that make fundraising efforts simple and successful.
To support our team's goal, you pick the one that matches what your company enjoys doing or where you feel like your strengths are.
The feelings of the folks in ARIS that participate are great, awesome. They are totally excited to get involved. They see the tangible benefits that raising money for the CF Foundation provides.
How amazing is it that an organization that started over 50 years ago by parents who were worried about their children have made such a tremendous difference, not only in the lives of their own families, but in the lives of countless families out there. It's a unique organization. There aren't many like it out there.
If I could describe the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation in one word, it would be incredible.
Amazing.
Hope.
Inspirational. Unique.
Effective.
All right. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Howard Tribble from Nevada and Randy Ball from the Heart of America chapter, and they're going to go over our first case study of corporate engagement through CFF golf sponsorship and networking for CF. So Howard and Randy, if you'll take it away.
Thank you, Andy. All right, I'm going to lead off here for Randy and myself. So, first of all, my wife and I have been involved with CF as volunteers and fundraisers for almost 40 years now. We've lived in Las Vegas for almost 14 years now. And I've been in the design and construction industry all of my life. So about 2 years ago, our chapter executive director approached me and asked me if I would be interested in taking on the presidency of the organization, to which, I said, absolutely, how can you turn that down? So at that point, we already had the annual gala. Earlier, we called it something different, but we had the annual gala, and we had the Great Strides Walk, and we had another couple of, I'll just phrase them as relatively minor events, but we did do the CF Finest Award, which was great too. But it seemed like what we were lacking was a golf outing. And having been in Las Vegas, as I've said, for almost 14 years now, I knew that golf was a huge opportunity for drawing people to this cause, at least in my industry. So I suggested that we take that on, and it took almost a year to put that together because there's a tremendous amount of planning with regard to it. But in March of 2016, we had our first golf outing, and we grossed about $87,000 or so, and we netted about $50,000 out of that event for the inaugural year, which was phenomenal. A lot of people said that we couldn't do it, which just gave me more and more inspiration to go ahead and do it. And so how did we do it? We put together a committee of about half a dozen people. We started to meet once a month initially, and then once every 2 weeks as we got closer, then every week as we got even closer. And we reached out to, and these were people on the committee that were mostly in the same industry as I was, the design and construction industry, people that were that were contractors, architects, insurance people, and we reached out to everybody that we knew, very strategically, but we reached out to everybody that we knew, and we got the community involved in that regard. So that's a lot of hard work. I don't mean to have it sound like I'm making it sound easy, because it's just not. It's a lot of hard work. It's very, very time consuming. And that was an event that took place on a Wednesday on a private 18-hole golf course in Henderson, a very exclusive course. So that was part of the draw, was that this was an opportunity for people to play that otherwise couldn't play this particular course. But we sold that out in year one. We had 144 golfers, so we sold that out, and it was a wonderful event. Part of that also included silent auctions and live auctions and the typical things that we would associate with a CF event. But make no mistake, golf was the draw. But that was a huge success, and from there, I thought the next year we could do a two-day event. We could have a dinner the prior day and then golf the subsequent day. And I thought that if we could move the Wednesday event from golf to a Monday now, we could do a Sunday evening dinner and a Monday golf. And we stayed at the same course, and that's what we did. We basically had the same committee as that first year, and we recently concluded this about 2 weeks ago now. And in year two, we grossed about $136,000, and we netted about $83,000. So I thought that was phenomenal, but our expenses were too high, $53,000 or so. So moving forward here, I think that we can continue to expand on that and increase both our top line and bottom line, in part by reducing our expenses, moving to a different course. I think the opportunity to expand the number of golfers can be gotten just by continuation of networking, starting earlier in that regard, expanding our committee from, say, half a dozen people to a dozen people, and really have more of a strategic approach to things. But again, I'm in design and construction, so I gravitate towards architects, engineers, consultants in that regard, contractors, subcontractors, et cetera, et cetera. recently, I changed jobs but stayed in the same industry. Now I'm Senior Vice President of Design and Construction for Caesars Entertainment, a huge company relative to where I had been working in the same industry. So I think that with their corporate partnership programs, we'll be able to take in, even more so, increase the amount of involvement next year and years past. So through the same types of strategies, I'm looking to increase our top line and bottom line by a good 50 to 60% in this next year as well, too, which translates into a couple of $100,000 of revenue and maybe 150, 160 or so $1,000 on the bottom line by lowering our expenses as well as increasing our involvement, and also translating that 18-hole golf course experience into a 36-hole course experience this coming year, because our interest was just so great. We sold out. We actually put people on a waiting list over the last 2 to 3 weeks. So I think with continuation of networking and outreach, we can get that up to a 36-hole opportunity. So I'm looking forward to that in the 2018 year.
So I'm Randy Ball, and about 13, 14 years ago, I started a golf tournament in Wichita, Kansas. At that point in time, Wichita, the only thing we had in the market was the walk. So looking to specifically about corporate money, the walk is an absolutely fantastic event. It's mostly family money and those people that we hit up every year for those teams. So I wanted more corporate dollars. Felt like the market was not touched. I'll make a really, really long story short. Giving me a mic and asking me to talk about my golf tournament in 5 minutes is like giving Andy a mic and asking him not to tell a joke. So, over 13 years, we've raised $868,000. We should break $1 million. If not this year, we certainly will next. The corporate engagement side of it is just absolutely critical to develop those relationships early on, because as Howard said, the overhead on a golf tournament is what pushes people away. Everyone will tell you can't do it. Golf tournaments don't make money. They're wrong. If you're persistent, and if you understand, donate. If they don't donate, we don't do it. And that's really kind of the mantra we started with, and we've grown from, I think our first year we did $24,000, of which about half of that was corporate money, to last year we did $117,000, and we didn't even play golf because we got rained out. And not a single sponsor asked for their money back. Not a single golfer asked for their money back. And that's because of the relationships we've developed over those 13 years. So, how do you do that? You identify a strong committee, because it does take a small army to pull it off. And in that committee, you all know somebody. And everybody will tell you, I don't know anybody. Brainstorm. Brainstorm a list of just the companies in your town that should be involved and aren't. And I guarantee you, as you talk in your groups, someone will know someone that works there. They might not be the someone, but they'll know someone. And if you're passionate about it, for me, I took a picture of my son every time I wanted to go talk to somebody and ask him for $10,000. Became a whole lot easier if I just took a look at him before I walked in and said, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this. Share your passion, share your story. We are a phenomenal story in the charitable organizations. So convey to them your elevator speech. I call it my elevator speech. It's a very common term, but in 3 minutes, I can tell you everything you need to know and why you should be given to cystic fibrosis. Over anything else that you get hit up on every day, all year long as a business, trust me, everyone's at their door with their hand out. You can do it. Little elevator speech. And then understand exactly what it is your chapter's trying to accomplish. What's the overhead goals? Again, running a golf tournament is not cheap. You're not going to get a golf tournament to donate the golf course to you for the day. But everything else is doable. And I could go on about it for hours, and if you ever want to sit down and talk about it and get bored to death, I'd be glad to do that. But I think I've probably taken up all my time. I think we've got a couple other points. Howard, you want to finish off?
Yep. Thank you, Randy. As Randy said, you just got to reach out to everybody you know. You got to be fairly strategic about it, I think, but you've got to reach out to everybody you know. I had dinner with a gentleman in the industry a few nights ago, and he said, "How do I find time for this?" He asked me, "How do I find time for this?" And I don't really know the answer to that question, which is what I told him. You just do. I wake up at 2 in the morning. I've got an idea. I've got some other people I want to reach out to. Right? I ask everybody. I ask everybody to get involved. I don't necessarily have an elevator speech per se.
I asked him to get involved in my event today.
There you go.
I did.
But true story, yeah. But I my banker, my insurance company. I mean, everybody. I'm always asking. And people say, "How do you do that?" It's not easy to ask for money. Yeah, it's not easy to ask for money, but it's a great cause. And I've been doing this a long time. I don't mean in the sense of asking for money, but being involved with the organization as a volunteer, as a fundraiser. So, you just got to persevere. Ask everybody. Make a plan, follow through on that plan, and don't get disappointed if people say no. Not everybody's ready at that exact moment. So just come back to them. Okay.
Sorry. Thank you very much. All right, thank you both. And real quick, I want to touch on something Howard said that's really important, is same industry. I like that. That's something that I'm very familiar with. Can everybody still hear me okay? I think the screen is freezing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can hear you. You're screaming at us.
Okay. And then also to Randy, himself, I said thank you as well. The whole CF community says thank you. That despite the fact that you ruined my NCAA bracket. That's it. All right, so we're going to move on to Nate Martin, Western Pennsylvania. And good job, gentlemen. And case study number 2, corporate networking event promotes CF fundraising and awareness.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, Nate.
As Andy said, I'm Nate Martin. We're in the Pittsburgh chapter. My wife here is with me, and we're partners in this whole fundraising thing. We do an event. It's a smaller, intimate event. It's sponsored by the company that I work for, Mascaro Construction. And the name of the event is Get Together for a Cause. It's a pretty simple event. They talked about all the planning and all the hard work that goes into these golf tournaments. We kind of tried to make an event that's a little simpler, a little easier. There's a little less planning. But around November, it's usually a little before Thanksgiving or a little after, we get together. This year was our 6th annual event. And what we do is the owner and CEO of our company, John Mascaro Jr., and I, we bartend for a group of our subcontractors, for our vendors, handful of selected clients, and our employees. And it's only a 3-hour event, 4:30 to 7:30 after work on a Thursday. We have it every year at McFadden Saloon. They're a local establishment on the North Shore, which is where our headquarters are. They're supporters of CF. They've been a supporter ever since we've been involved with cystic fibrosis. They host the 65 Roses Pittsburgh Sports Auction until it grow too big to have there. So they're a good partner, but they actually donate the venue to us. John Mascaro Jr., he picks the tab up for the evening, all the cocktails, all the food. So we take all the tips and all the donations that night go straight to CF. So it's kind of a zero cost event. All proceeds are net. And usually we raise somewhere in a 3-hour night with tips $7,000 to $9,000. So in the last 6 years, we're close to about $50,000. Some of the things in the event is kind of know your audience. We like to have cocktails. We like to do business over cocktails in our industry. So we kind of use that model to say, hey, how can we do things that we would normally do in our business to promote CF and fundraise for CF? So that's kind of what took us towards that, let's have a bartending event. It fits our corporate culture. It fits the corporate culture of the contractors and the clients that we invite. they like to share in those type of events. They're part of the community. They're part of that local community. They're part of the giving back to the community. But one of the biggest things is the draw. How do you get the people there? You know, how do you get those subcontractors there on a Thursday night? So it's pretty amazing when we're behind the bar. You can just tell they want to have FaceTime with John Mascaro Jr. You know, that's the draw. The draw is they want John to know that they're there to support a cause that Mascaro is supporting. So it's pretty neat to see. You know, one of the things that it helps me is they talked about how hard it is to ask for money. I'm horrible at asking for money, so every year we get to great strides, and it's like, all right, we need corporate sponsors, you know, and you start to do that networking. But one of the things that this event has kind of opened up is it's not a cold call at that point in time. You know, they remember that event. You can, you know, enjoy the event this year. Just call and see if you guys are interested and help us out in the spring here. So it's really helped with getting some more corporate donations when it comes to great strides in the spring. And the other thing that, you know, kind of the key takeaway is, you know, corporate engagement. You know, we talk about these six-figure, million-dollar figure corporate events, but sometimes these little events, you know, this networking, it has to start somewhere. You know, there's a spark there. You just spark one person's interest, one company's interest, you know, and it can grow and grow and grow. So don't be afraid that, you know, these things have to be massive. So. Sounds like we're getting close to time, so I'm going to turn it over.
All right. Thank you so much, Nate. Really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I know we're a little behind time, so I'm going to let Jed Williams from the Texas chapter for our third case study, and we're going to talk about how he built a national corporate team at his company. All right, Jed?
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for the time. So first of all, I'll say, you know, my personal connection to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is actually my daughter. I've got an 8-year-old daughter with CF, as most of us in this room probably do. And we started this journey in raising money about 9 years ago, actually, before Emily was even born. So, you know, it's always good to have that personal connection. And the other speakers here mentioned about, you know, using, you know, that picture of your child to give you the courage, but also, you know, leverage that face with your potential donors is a big thing that you need to do. But I have all the connections within Cisco. Cisco Systems is a 75,000 person company all over the world. Not the food company, the technology company. But my wife is the brains behind the operation, so she's in the back of the room. So I definitely have to give her a shout out there, wherever she's at, back there somewhere. So, but just to give you kind of an overview of the events that Cisco has done, and it started with me, right? You know, this wasn't a big corporate push, and they put my face on it. It really was me going to an executive and saying, hey, you know, we give a lot of money to charity every year. Why not the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation? And the first question I got was, well, what is CF, right? And I think you guys in the room probably get a lot of that. They think it's just, oh, they got asthma, they'll grow out of it, right? And if only, right? But just to kind of give you an idea of what the events that we do every year. We first start with a video. We get a video professionally done. I've got a vendor that we use for a lot of our internal communications, and they always eagerly give their time up to produce this video. And then we push that video out to all of our employee base. And I said we have 75,000 employees, but we have about 50,000 contractors on top of that. So imagine when Cisco's IT group sees me push out 150,000 emails every year. And I do, right? And I'm pretty bold about it as well, with the video that shows Emily and what she's done and how far she's come over the last 8 years, and really ask these folks to give their personal money. And we do that with what we call a virtual team. So you guys are Great Strides. While you guys do a lot with Great Strides, we just simply create a Great Strides team called Cisco Virtual Team. And that's the name, the first and last name of the team. And anybody that wants to give money, just wants to do a credit card transaction, gives to that virtual walker, so to speak. And I also send out shirts to those folks that want shirts. We do a little internal registration tool, and I've sent shirts all over the world: India, Dubai. You imagine getting CF shirts through customs in some of these cities. It's pretty interesting, these nations. But we do a lot of that to drive awareness, because again, CF is not asthma, right? And just that awareness really helps. The other thing that we do is golf events. It's a common theme here around golf, especially in the corporations. Everybody wants to go play golf, and they're always willing to give money to go play golf. And so last year we did golf events in Southfield, Michigan, in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Seattle, Washington, and San Jose, California. And so last year we raised close to 200,000. I think the paper says 180, but I like to round up because I think it was closer to 200,000. But and that was a really big year for us. Just to put it in perspective, the year before we raised about 80. So to go from 80 to almost 200,000 a year, that's pretty phenomenal. So I'm pretty proud of that. And this year, we're just getting started, right? This year it's going to be even bigger. So the lessons I've learned is that first of all, you have to be courageous, right? It's that whole concept of courageous leadership. I usually say, I tell my team, don't ask permission, just go do it. Bend that rule. Don't go to jail. Get really close, right? But be courageous. But also, I would say, get a very senior executive sponsor. I'm a senior leader within Cisco, but I'm not senior enough to go push 150,000 emails out without a little bit of air cover, right? And so, get that senior executive sponsor and somebody that either has a personal connection or they may not. Like my senior executive sponsor at Cisco had a roommate with CF. Who would have ever thought about it? The second one is get an HR sponsor, because somebody's gonna complain that you're being too aggressive. I got an email a couple of years ago. Hey, if he can do that, why can't my kid go, push out emails about selling Girl Scout cookies? And I said, hey, if you think it's just as important, go for it, brother. Right? And so you can imagine how that conversation probably went. But, and then I would say leverage your employee base, right? You will find people within your company that have CF or that have a personal connection with CF. We have about a dozen people at Cisco actually working at Cisco with cystic fibrosis. I would have never known. It's such a small community, and people don't like talking about it, right? They don't want people to know that they're sick. And so, you will build that community within your own corporation, which is nothing but positive. And then the other thing I would say, and I'm almost done, I'm getting the hook here, leverage your company's partners, right? Because all those partners, they want to support your event. They want to support your cause. And so when we do our golf tournaments, we actually don't charge the participants. They can play for free. We sell every hole. We sell the drink cart. We sell the lunch. We sell the breakfast. We have a title sponsor at all those events. And, it is the participants pay for free. Now, I've sometimes wondered, maybe I should charge for them because a lot of them I think would actually pay something. So this year we may actually try to do that, sell mulligans or something like that to try to drive some more money. And I tell my team all the time that are driving this, because it's not just me. I've got a team of volunteers now that have all jumped in all these different cities driving these events. I said, but the first year, go big. Even if it's not super profitable, you guys see if folks close your ears, but even if it's not super profitable, go big. Because if you make that first event really nice, that next event, you'll make it twice as big and raise twice as much money. So go big. So I'll leave you with be big, be bold. Push the boundaries and get your people to help you. And remember this is not just about raising money, but it's about raising awareness, because our extended community, our corporations, they have no idea what we as a community are going through. And once you educate them, it just changes the world and makes this so much easier. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen, and your wife as well. You guys are doing great work. Jen gave us a lot of points right there, but if I had to remember one, and you remember one from the entire VLC, I'd like go for it. Don't go to jail, but get really close. I'm going to use that as my own committee. Yeah. All right, so let's kind of move on to Wish for Wendy, which is the event I started back in 2000. And I'm going to tell you why corporate engagement makes things such a success. So a brief description of the event. We go to the next slide. It is approaching its 18th year. And the event is raised, the first year we did it, we raised about $38,000. In the last 2 years, we've raised over $450,000. Thank you. So we've raised $3.2 million since 2000. It's mostly a softball tournament, but we have a silent auction as well. And we've kind of worked in the number 16 is, many of you don't know, my sister, Wendy, who the event is in memory of, only lived 16 days. And so we have 16 teams, and each team plays for a CF ambassador. So we have 16 ambassadors, and that makes it very special to kind of tie in my sister to the teams themselves, and the ambassadors really help tie it in for the teams. But as far as the $3.2 million, $2.4 million of that is just sponsorships alone, corporations getting involved alone. And that's a great deal of it. That's why it's so important. So my advice is this: get your Rolodex, make contacts. I heard something earlier about, I think it was Howard who had put that out there, that you have to go within your industry. That's something I did. I was in the heating, ventilation, air conditioning industry for a long time. A lot of my contacts were from there, that their corporation sponsored our event. You build a strong committee. We have at least 10 people every year. Some family, some friends, some that just wanted to take part because they played the event in the past, that really make a big difference. And you never know until you ask. Something about no, I'm going to tell you a really, really quick story. This will end mine. Is my mom, when she was starting her first event, which wasn't Wish for Wendy, it was many years when I was a very little kid, she went, and those of you who've heard of Isaac Hayes, the singer, my mom saw him running in Atlanta, and my mom is one of those people who will ask anyone anything. She ran up to him while he was running with his bodyguards. And she asked him, I'm doing a big event for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Would love it if you could come and do something for the event. He goes, I'll see what I can do. And he kept running. And she's like, well, you know what? He didn't say no. So the next day, they came up to my mom, a couple of the ladies that work at the event. They said, there are two huge fellas here, and they want to talk to you. And they were a little intimidated. My mom looked up, she goes, can I do something for you? They said, this is from Isaac Hayes, here you go. And he signed albums and all these other things. And my mom was like, see, you never know until you ask. So that's something I always learned, and that's what I put forth at Wish for Wendy every year. You never know until they say no. So I'm going to turn it over to Marianne Martin from the Western Pennsylvania chapter, and we'll do it open mic. Marianne?
Hi, my name is Marianne, and I am I am Nate's wife. I have a few questions from some of the online people. So the first one is to Randy, and they wanted to know that you mentioned the right educated message to engage corporate donors. They want you to suggest some bullet points to include.
Yeah, for me, especially if you're approaching a corporation, every one of them has a budget at some level for corporate money. They do get a lot of requests for that. So the fiscal responsibility of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is one thing that I drive home every time. In our chapter, I think last year was just it pushed 92%. You can say 90 cents out of every dollar goes towards finding a cure, and that's the second thing that I push, is that we're not just talking about prolonging life. We're not talking about treating symptoms. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is after a cure, and then I can point to the medicines and the drugs and the things that have happened in the last 5 or 6 years that actually drive that point home. And that's really all I find that they care about, is that I'm going to give my money to somebody. It's going to be used in a positive manner, and it's not going to somebody's salary, and I'm making a difference with my dollars. That's all they really care about. And we continue to drive that home all the time.
Perfect, thanks. Nate, this next question is for you. They want to know what advice you would give in approaching your HR or boss or CEO to get involved with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Well, that's been kind of easy on our story, because when my wife was pregnant with our daughter, I was actually working underneath the current owner now and he kind of adopted our cause, and they created a committee. It's called the Giving Back to the Community Committee, and cystic fibrosis is kind of one of their top priorities. And on that committee was the head of our HR. So I would say this, though, outside of my experience, where it was relatively easy, it was a very small company where we kind of all knew each other, and it was easy to go ask for those things. They were willing. We didn't even have to ask. The important part would be not to be afraid to ask. Talk about all these statistics. Talk about, the foundation, what the foundation can do. Just the model of the foundation and what it's been able to do, I think sells itself for, your HR to want to get involved.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Hi, Frank Spera from the Palm Beach chapter. My wife and I are here. We are chapter advocates. Question for any of the panel members. The biggest challenge that I face, and the challenge that can discourage me most easily until I look at the picture of my grandson, is getting to the decision maker. So that I can tell the story and how that person, he or she, can join the community. You got any inside tips as to how to get by the fifth level of person before you get up to the true decision maker? We advocate here also in Washington, D.C. with the congressmen and women, and also in our state of Florida with our legislators. Sometimes we don't even get to see the legislator, and we know they're in their office. We can't seem to get by to the person that's going to make the decision. Maybe you guys have some suggestions.
Yeah, let me try to tackle that first and give you my personal experience with that. So, almost 2 years ago, when I had the idea to do the golf outing, I thought this is going to be easy. I'm in the gaming and leisure business, even though a subset of that is design and construction, but I'm in the gaming and leisure business, and I know people within the organizations in Las Vegas, huge corporations that are national or even multinational, Wynn and Sands and MGM and Station Casinos and many, many more. So I'm just going to go knock on their doors, and I'm just going to ask for their commitment. And I got turned away by every one of them. And the number one response that I got was, this, I'm sure it's a noble cause. They didn't really understand what it was, but this doesn't really affect us. That was the quote almost to a company. This doesn't affect us. And I said, well, it really probably does. You just don't know it. Because, not everybody's very vocal about their own personal life and issues here. But I got that as a standard answer from, one company through 10 companies. And so the approach that I decided to take instead was kind of a ground-up approach of what I did, in a sense, out of necessity, but also that's where I had a great deal of relationships, was reaching out to the architectural firms and the engineering firms and the contractors and all the people that I knew at the grassroots level, with the expectation that as we grew that network, which is what we're in the process of doing, they will help me knock on the doors of people that they have those relationships with within those companies, their employees and those HR directors and community relations directors and so on. So that's the approach that I'm taking. I didn't succeed from going top down, but we will succeed going ground up. So that's the best personal experience I can give you with that.
Thank you. Jed, we have a online viewer or listener that wants to, we already know that you bring your personal connection into your ask, but they want to know if they could hear an abbreviated elevator speech.
Wow. How about that for on the spot? How about let's do your 3-minute speech there. I'm
interested.
Yeah. I think the answer is no. They really can't, because I don't have one. I would love to hear yours, by the way. I would encourage you to tape that and put it on Google, YouTube, seriously. But, the video that we always do with Emily's Hope, if you go to YouTube, search Emily's Hope, you'll see there's 5 or 6 years of them out there. They're usually 2 or 3 minutes long. They're infomercials about what is CF. And that is the best thing we've done, because you can't watch that video by design without, needing a box of Kleenexes and people going, all right, what can I do to help? And that, you just got to tell your story, I guess is what I would say, and what you're doing and why you're advocating. And even in some of these multi-billion-dollar companies, you always find somebody at a high enough level, to not to be the CEO or even the senior vice president, but at a high enough level somewhere that has a personal connection, saying, I will help you drive this within my company. And that's just how it started for us. So I don't think I really answered the question, but those videos are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, I would echo that, and just from when I talk about my elevator speech, I kind of give it to you already. For me, the elevator speech is, why do I do it? And it's my son. And where does your money go? How is it being spent? And how much of it goes to the cost? And at that point, if I'm talking to a decision maker in a company, that's really, at that point, what they care about. Now, knowing your audience, I think somebody mentioned that earlier, is extremely important as well. Because if it's maybe not the decision maker, but it's somebody who has access to the decision maker, and they're a mom, I'll pull the heartstrings. I don't have a problem with that, because I live with it every day. It pulls my heartstrings when I see my son going through what he has to go through just to breathe. So I don't mind pulling that out, but it depends on your audience. Senior vice president of a company, maybe he's not going to care about whether or not you can make him cry, but he does care about his money being spent wisely. So know your audience, know your bullet points. You don't have a whole lot of time generally when you get the right person. So you want to drive home why they should be given to CF. And I think everybody in this room can answer that question.
Anyone else have any comments on the?
Can I say something?
Sure.
So this is Andy, and I went to a speech for, many of you know Bernie Marcus is one of the men who started Home Depot. And what you may not know is in Atlanta, he has the Marcus Institute, which is for autism. And does anybody know why he got into autism? I mean, why he started raising money for autism and all that he does for it? He created a center and everything, spent millions and millions. Anybody?
No. Alice.
Because what?
Tell us.
Because he had an employee who came to him to tell him the story. It was one of his employees that was going through a really tough time. He just wasn't looking for money, just told the story, and all of a sudden Bernie was hooked. And so I guess my point is, you just never know. And something real quick that we do at Wish for Wendy, we put pictures of every CF ambassador on the field. So when you're walking down, it's like, we call it the trail of inspiration. And people walk down, and one by one, left to right, it has a picture of somebody, a child with CF, and tells a brief story about them and what team they're playing for. And the team is playing for them. So just like you said, the heartstrings. I mean, you definitely want to pull them, but for a good cause.
Thank you, Andy. That's very powerful. That's a very powerful message.
All right. And we want to go ahead and close it out a little bit here. Are there any other questions? Are we good? I think we have a few more.
Okay.
Take a couple more? Okay.
I had one. Any tips on getting the bigger amounts of money? And there's been a lot of times I've asked. I don't have a problem asking. And then they gave, the corporate commitment was $1,000. And I was kind of thinking more like $50,000. So there was a big disconnect there, or $25,000 or $10,000. Is there any tips on getting the big money?
I'll jump in here too, but for our events, especially for the golf tournaments are so easy to get those big donations. We always sell a title sponsor. So, with the title sponsor, any shirts you make, anything that goes out, it's got them listed as the title sponsor. And that's a big deal for a lot of these companies to get that recognition. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, I echo that too with regard to the golf outing and the sponsorships. I won't say that it's easy. I haven't found it to be easy. But also in Las Vegas, the market's really not fully rebounded like a lot of the rest of the country has. So But it's coming along. But over the last 2 years, we've gotten two $10,000 sponsorships for sponsoring the event, and golf cart sponsors and ball sponsors and stuff like that. So, we ask for 5, 10, 15, 20 for dinner and golf components of that event. But to your point, the big elephant that I want to bag is the gaming and leisure companies, the Caesars, the MGMs, the Wynn's, where you can go in and get $50, $100, $200,000. That's what I want to do too. And that might have some tie into golf, and it may have no tie into golf. And as an extension of the strategy, probably it has nothing to do with golf, but it has to do more so with the gala. Or maybe if it does have something to do with the golf outing, it's the Sunday dinner, not the golf itself. It's having a celebrity MC. It's having a celebrity speaker. It's having live entertainment of the Las Vegas level. And at that point, I think that at least we can pull in that $50 or $100 or $250,000. So I think that you've got to be bold and ask, first of all, because if you don't ask, there's no opportunity to respond positively or negatively. And if it is negative, don't give up, persevere. But hand in hand with all that, my strategy is also to start at the ground, grassroots level network and push up across the board there, because the corporations don't know that they have people within their organizations that are affected by this. We need to tell them that.
That's right. I think, this is Peter again, I would just echo that last statement you made. And I think we have to be okay with meeting people where they're at. If we can take the first step of building confidence and getting awareness out in where we work and in our companies, and not being afraid to ask, but also not feel bad about, there's many levels of corporate engagement. Matching gifts. Do you know if your company's using their matching gifts fully? Do you know if they can form a team? Maybe that's how you start. You go through it, and we have countless opportunities. With Jed and with many of you in the room, where a corporate team or a matching gift led us to something much bigger. And then as far as the $50,000 sponsorship, we also want to be realistic. We're not just a tin cup in hand. We want to show a value proposition. We want to show them that we can deliver benefits to them as well by partnering with us. So I think it's really just a kind of evolution, and sometimes you'll, depending on where you want to get in, at what tier, is the strategy you make. And I want to say that your chapter staff, we have great proposals. The staff are ready to help you build it. If you get us in that door, we'll help you figure out what we would call a discovery meeting, which is really a way to say, we're not here to tell you, company, what you should be doing for CF. We want to hear we want to tell you about CF, and we want to find out from you what keeps you up at night. What are the things you want to do as a company? And by God, we're then able to go back after that meeting and say, you talked about building esprit de corps at your company. We have a walk for you where we can build teams. So we really want to take an approach where we're not shoving something at them, but we're really having a conversation with them. I think the first thing is just to feel confident that we're worthy of that support. And there's many areas of why we're worthy of that support. From our efficiency model, maybe that's the thing that will resonate with them. Maybe it's the heartstrings. It will definitely be the heartstrings. But, I always say Geico is a big supporter of us across the country. And they can't very well find many people throughout their large organization that raise their hand and say CF. But why do they support us at the highest level? Because they love our efficiency model. They feel it mirrors their own, and they're proud of that, and they want to identify with it. So I think there's many reasons. We have to find what floats their boat, along with all the good things we do, and tap into that and mirror that back to them when we talk to them. So that's my 2 cents on it. I think we had one more question I think we had time for. Did we, Andy? Yes.
I thought we did. Real quick, Peter, I wanted to add something really fast to that. If you guys look at the last slide of our slideshow here, where it shows, you see there's 3 people with the big Dunkin' Donuts check? Yes. You see the last slide, 2 good-looking people, and then me? So Dunkin' Donuts started out our first year, they brought us a couple of boxes of donuts. And it's gone to the point where now they've given us a grant for $7,000. So something that Peter said, exactly. You start somewhere, You start somewhere and then you see where that goes. You never know. They might just keep going and keep adding and keep adding and keep adding, and they have. So something Peter mentioned, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Great. And then we have one more question. Yeah. Okay.
Not really a question, it's more a comment. What we do in Vegas at all our events is we have a CFer speak. And one of the things that happened for Howard and I at his golf outing was that people that work with me came who heard of CF, but they didn't know anything about it. And when our young lady got up and spoke and she talked about her treatment and the pills she takes and all the work it takes for her to live each and every day, they came away saying, wow, I'm so glad I came. So that next time someone says, hey, will you give to CF? They understand why we need the funds. So it's also about awareness too, not just about how much they can give.
Yeah, that's, if I could add to that, that's super important because we've had, of all the cities we went through, we had one city that we didn't have a CF person at, right? From like, you know, my daughter that wasn't there, whoever. And I got feedback from that city that they didn't feel a personal connection to CF and they didn't think they were going to do it again next year, right? So all the other cities, we immediately, Peter and I chatted, we immediately started putting the CF folks, either Cisco people or not, there. And the demeanor changed drastically and the amount of money changed drastically as well. So absolutely have that local, have somebody at that event that can actually have that conversation. Very strong presenter is very important to share the story.
All right. Oh, great. Well, thank you, everybody. That's something I did want to add. Please don't ask me to speak in Vegas because I would probably be the one that said, can I borrow $5,000 from the blackjack table?
You could double it.
I've kind of lost my shirt. But that's another story altogether. But let me say thank you to all of our committee that is there. If you guys could give them another hand. And to Peter and Dana and everyone who's done such a great job. But I'm going to close it with this. You know, please check out the reverse page of the takeaway packet. There you can tell us about topics you want to hear about in the future, maybe some of the calls we're going to make, and just leave us your feedback. You can actually go to the table over there. I can't do it because I'm virtual, but you can go over to the table and leave any feedback, and Peter or myself or Dana or someone will get back to you. And we really, really appreciate your attention today. And I hope you can see from all the slides and from listening to all the people, we have a great opportunity here to raise a lot of money, and as we've been saying, not just to treat cystic fibrosis, but to cure it, so that people like me, when they travel to events like this, non-virtually, they don't have to carry around a vest, nebulizer, hundreds of pills. They can just live their life and travel. So thank you very much.
Let's give a thank you to Andy Lippman, too.